everyone, it's Emily Fox, and today's video is going to be all about fall vibes recommendation. Goodreads is a list that I was looking at, and their list can be a little hit and miss for me, but this one, I have so many books that I love. In the categories that didn't really work for me, I do have some alternatives. So I thought this would be a really good way to just talk about more book recommendations for the fall. The list is officially called 63 reading recommendations for every fall reading vibe. So we're going to get to it because that first list, which is called Witchy Magic, is right up my alley because out of the 9 recommendations, I have read or attempted to read 8. So almost all of them. They didn't all work for me, but I have some alternatives because it is so me. If you have more recommendations, please let me know because again, witches are my jam. So I'm going to go in order of the ones that are there. The first one is Wayward, and unfortunately that's one of the ones that did not work for me. The average rating is really high though, and people tend to love it, although it's a bit more historical fiction that tends to work for me. For me, it kind of got just vague too quickly. I just put it down because I wasn't feeling it. I'm trying to learn to do that. So we're just going to move on to the next one right away. So the second book on the list is The Invisible Life of Adelaide by V.E. Schwab, which I don't think this is a very witchy book, but it's a book that I gave 5-star to, so who cares? I love it. I would recommend it. Main character is probably where you get the witchy vibes. It's set, I think, 200, 300, 400 years ago. She is going to be forced to marry someone, so she flees, and in the woods she makes a deal with spirit, the devil, and she wants to run away. And the deals, obviously, she gets strict, and whenever she meets people, they forget her existence right after she leaves. So you can imagine the kind of life you're living if you're not dying and everyone keeps forgetting about you. So you're following her story, which eventually she meets someone that does remember her. So you're kind of seeing that going, and I did really, really enjoy it. Mostly because of the writing style. I feel like this is her best book in terms of the quality of her writing. I really, really enjoy this. It's very character driven, so it may or may not work for you, but like I said, this was right up there for me. 5-star. Did enjoy it quite a bit. The next one on the list is Practical Magic, which I grew up watching the movie. I love the movie. I want that house so badly. The vibes, all of the vibes. So I was looking forward to reading the actual book, which I did, and unfortunately, I feel like it's one of those few cases where the movie is better than the book. The music was so good too. And I feel like this one didn't age as well, especially some of the descriptions of female characters, for example. I didn't find the writing that great. I did read more because it is a series now. There are some prequels and some follow-ups, sequel books. And to me, her writing in general doesn't really appeal to me, but I do have a recommendation that is really similar, but better. So might as well mention it here. And it would be Garden Spells. I've been mentioning it a lot because this one is definitely also cozy, witchy, small town. You get all of those vibes, and it's so similar to Practical Magic, but again, better. So you have these two sisters. They're not really close. One of them is wild and free and escapes the small town, and then she comes back when she gets stuck in a DV situation. Again, super similar. And then she goes back to small town, kind of trying to see if maybe they can mend a relationship. You have some cooking, you have some magic vibes with a magical apple tree in the backyard, and you get some romance. I just really enjoyed this. I'm not even big on romance, but this one I was fully invested. It's just a feel-good kind of book. I've been recommending it a lot, and it just worked. So would recommend that one instead. It's not on the list, but I mean, who cares? More recommendation. The next book on the list is The Unmaking of June Farrow, which, looking at that list, I'm realizing that the ones that don't work for me tend to be a bit more historical fiction. So if you enjoy those, this one is extremely popular, but again, I had to put it down. Main character seems to be going back in time through like flashbacks. She seems to be like seeing ghosts. Her mom was sick, disappeared. Her grandma died. Again, she was going through the same thing. So you get the witchy vibes, but again, it didn't work for me, but it's really popular. So you might want to check that one out. The next one I just read recently, and it is The Ex-Hex. This one is just good fun. It's not serious. It is cozy too, because following character who was dating this man when they were like 19, 20, and they break up abruptly, and she ends up getting drunk and cursing him. She doesn't really think anything happened, but 20 years later, when he has to come back in town, witchy family business, he ends up cursing the whole town because he uses the magic there, and he is cursed. And instead of actually fixing things, they end up having spicy time, which was like my one negative about the book, because they're adults, but I felt like they kept acting like children. Like, you know, when you're reading a YA book and all you can think of is like, please speak to an adult. So that would be the one thing about this book, but it's very unserious. You have ghost, you have a cat. The cat was good. And I enjoyed the small town vibes. And I know it's a series, so let me know if you have continued this series and it is worth it or not. But To me, it was just a good book. It was fine for what it was. I read it at a perfect time. So if you're feeling a little bit in a reading slum, you just want an easy book to read, this one was super readable. Next, you have Cackle. This one, you follow this woman who was in a very too long term relationship, and her boyfriend breaks up with her. So she decides that it is time for her to reinvent herself. She goes to a small town and starts making friends. And she meets this woman, magical woman, that everyone seems to know her. Some people seem to love her, some people seem to fear her. You get the witchy vibes. She lives in the forest kind of thing. And I was really enjoying her character, and I was hoping for character growth for the female character. And I don't want to spoil it in the video, but I will happily do that in the comment section if you want me to, because I was really enjoying it until the ending, which I wanted something different. I wanted something different, but you might not agree with this. So I would check it out because of, again, small town vibes, but a little bit more horror than all the other books on this list, or the specific portion of that list. But Cackle is definitely a witchy one. A Discovery of Witches is the only one I did not read. I did watch a TV show, season 1. Is it worth actually reading the book? Let me know. I feel like people were divided when I asked before, but I'm throwing it out there. Next, we have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This one definitely got some hype, and I was really excited for it. I did overall really enjoy it. You have the main character who is an orphan. She is a witch, and in that world, you're supposed to kind of hide it, obviously. And she ends up finding this job where she will be a teacher to young witches in this house. So you definitely get the like small town vibes ish, but mostly like found family vibes. I really enjoyed, again, her making friends, building a family, finding a family, creating that family. And I enjoyed the romance, except for one thing. I feel like at one point they have a fight, which I can explain again the details in the comment section. And I feel like the dude crossed a line. And like she forgave him. I didn't. I feel like he went way past the line. If she were my friend, no, like she forgave you, I didn't. I don't feel like he redeemed himself. Anyway, we can again talk about that in the comment section. I haven't heard anyone really mention this, but it really marked me. Like sometimes you read something and like you don't really mind, but personally just I had to stop and I was like, whoa, you did not just say that. And then the last book in this specific category is The Once and Future Witches, which is again historical fiction witches, which I had to also put down for some reason. You get like the women's right movement in there, which you would think I would love, but for some reason I kind of got bored and I had to put it down. But again, it's quite beloved, so you might enjoy it. The next category is cozy fantasy, which there were a couple in the witchy vibe ones, but I've been really exploring that specific subgenre, and it's been hit and miss, but the ones that I have found, I have loved. Again, garden spells, absolutely. And I feel like sometimes they feel a little bit juvenile. That's kind of the best way I can describe them, a little bit like children books for adults, as I keep saying. And the difference is basically, am I emotionally invested? If I am, I love them. If I'm not, I just find them a little meh. But let's go through all 9 because I have read or attempted to read most of them once again. The first one is Legends and Lattes. I feel like this is the beginning for me of my love affair with them. It wasn't the first one that I read, but it's the first one that made me realize, actually, this is a thing and I do enjoy it. This was a fun ride. You have the setting where the main character is a mercenary, she's an orc, and she's tired of that life. So she decides to get all the money that she has and she buys this shop in a small town and she opens a coffee shop. Nobody has heard of coffee there, and you're just following her day to day, trying to hire people, get the place ready, try to get some clients. It's mostly very low stakes. You also get a little bit of a queer relationship, and it's cute. It's cute for what it was. I do recommend it. I feel like everyone has heard of it, but it was good. Then you get Dressed of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This has strong Princess Bride vibes, which either work for you or they don't. And this is what I meant by I don't get emotionally invested. I feel like in theory it sounds good. Main character has to go and rescue someone. She goes on an adventure. She leaves her little island. And the humor worked for me. The writing was fine, but I just really didn't care. But I feel like a lot of people really enjoy Brandon Sanderson, so it might be worth a try if you're looking at it. And you also have the Encyclopedia of Fairies, which was super popular. It's one of the first books that I read, and it was based on your recommendation, sadly. It was one of your best books of last year, so I was really excited to try it. And unfortunately, again, I wasn't emotionally invested, so I ended up putting it down. Main character is probably on the spectrum, and she goes to this small remote island, small town, where she will be trying to learn about fairies. And I think there's gonna be a relationship. I was not feeling it at all, so I put it down again. I'm just trying to not force myself to finish books when I'm not feeling it. So that's that. The next one is really fantasy. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I guess there's kind of a ghost, so I guess it could be fantasy, sci-fi-ish though, because there's time travel. This book was actually written as a play, so it's very much like one scene. You're following this cafe coffee shop in Japan where people, if they follow these very specific rules, can travel back in time, but they have to stay there. They have to go visit someone that was there, and it has to be short because they have to come back before the coffee gets cold. So I was really into it until this specific trope started that I absolutely despise. And I was so stubborn that I actually read the second book because I was hoping it was going to get better, and unfortunately continues with this trope. Again, you might not have an issue with it. Again, I can happily spoil it for you in the comment section. I ended up actually putting the book down and looking up the author because I knew it was a man. And it was. So that's all I'm going to say. Next is one of my favorite author. We have from Becky Chambers, A Psalm for the Well-Built, which this is also a sci-fi, right? I mean, you're following a monk making friends with a robot. Like, how is that not in a dystopian world? Either way, it's great, so who cares? So like I was saying, you're following this monk who is kind of depressed. They go from town to town, making tea, kind of trying to help out other people. But at this point, they're the ones not doing well. They want to figure out what to do with their life. And in that world, one day robots got up and left humanity. They just couldn't stand us, which, you know, can't blame them. So the main character ends up, again, finding this robot, kind of building a friendship. And book two, I think, is even better. I remember giggling a few times during the book two, and they're both really short, 100-something pages, so you can easily binge read the two books really quickly. It's just a really cozy, feel-good kind of story, so I absolutely recommend this series for sure. I don't know if there are going to be more books or if it's just going to be a duology. Either way, recommend it for sure. Cemetery Boys. Is that cozy? I mean, it kind of felt a little cozy, but was it? This one is a YA fantasy. Is this a series? I feel like this could be a series. But I've only read book one. Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, there will be a second book. Okay. But I've only read or listened to the audiobook for this one, which I felt like worked for me. I don't read a ton of YA books anymore, but I did enjoy this one. The main character is trying to find a place for themselves. They're not really sure if they feel comfortable with their gender, and in their culture, people tend to be categorized very strictly. So they're kind of dealing with this. There's a little bit of romance in there too. And again, is it that cozy? I don't know. You tell me. So you could also say this one has a little bit of witchy vibes. There's a ghost. So it was interesting, but it is a YA book. The next one is a throwback for sure. The Night Circus. I haven't talked about this book in forever. I feel like this one, I went into it with the wrong expectation. I had heard people mention that this was a battle between two magicians. Like, this is not how I would describe it. Technically, yes, but it's just a vibe. Honestly, this author in general is just vibes. Her writing, you either like it or you don't. And there's not that much of a story. It's long, beautiful descriptions of this circus and these characters, and I wouldn't be able to tell you much more about it. For me, it was just okay. But this book is definitely her best one between the two that I have read, but I'm a little surprised to see it here. But I guess it is kind of cozy. If you enjoy very lyrical writing, this might work for you. And I have not read the two other ones, so if you have, let us know if they're worth checking out or not. Dark and Moody. Okay, for fall, I feel like gothic vibes is definitely something that a lot of us enjoy, and I have read more of these than I expected. In general, gothic books tend to be a bit more hit and miss, but there is one on this list that is an absolute favorite, so let's get to it. The first book on the list is Rebecca, which is a classic gothic novel. I want to read more by the author. You follow the main character who gets married to this wealthy widower, and she finds herself being hunted by the ex-wife, or the wife, I guess. Does it count as a wife? Ex-wife? To me, this was okay. I thought I was going to enjoy it more than I did, but the vibes are definitely there. So if that's something that you want to explore, I feel like the author's fantastic at writing characters, but it's specifically like the narration. That's why I want to try more books by her. I've seen accidentally the movie My Cousin Rachel, which I was waiting until I forgot enough to read it, which I think I'm ready soon. But yes, definitely something that you must try if you want to read some gothic. This is a classic for a reason. Then we have Mexican Gothic, which unfortunately didn't really work for me. I feel like this one The ending was specifically really underwhelming. Main character has a family member who got married, and the house is it haunted? Are they dying from something? And she goes to explore there, and kind of things are weird. Things are weird. But again, the ending was a bit underwhelming for me. So The Haunting of Hill House, which is literally my worst nightmare. H's are so difficult with my accent. But is this one worth it? I've heard great things. I do have it on my shelf, and I had read a couple pages and put it down, and I need to get back to it because I've heard fantastic things. The next one that I did read was Wuthering Heights, which, once again, it's another one that I went into it with wrong expectations. I have since learned to not have any expectations, but I kept hearing people say that this was a wrong. And now that I've read it, it's so wrong to say that. If you stretch the definition maybe a little bit, because I mean, the main character, one of them is trying to get his revenge for being, pushed away from the person he loves. But still, it's definitely just awful people doing awful things to each other. Have you seen, by the way, the possible cast of the new adaptation? I feel like it really doesn't work. No offense, but like people were joking that more and more actors have like Instagram faces, and like they just don't work. If you actually read the book, they just don't work. But yes, I did overall like this book. And if you go into it with the right expectations, you might enjoy it more than I did. But yes, it was good. Absolutely, again, the dark gothic vibes for sure. Next is my favorite on this list, or this portion of the list, I should say. Paradesi, because it's such a gem. I feel like it's getting more and more hyped, and it absolutely deserves it because it's a little bit of everything. Yes, dark academia vibes a little bit, gothic vibes absolutely. Do be prepared though, because the first time I started reading it, I put it down really quickly because I had no idea what was going on. I was not feeling it, and it's because the main character is confused. So you're following his narration, and you're confused. You have no idea what's going on. So they are confused. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They're finding like letters, like notes from themselves. They don't remember what date is, where they are. And it's definitely something that is also vibes. I feel like everything that is gothic is vibes. And you've tried to figure out how they got there, what's going on, where they are, and it's good. It's good. I feel like this definition doesn't do it justice, but you just have to experience it to really get it. And this was great. It's also quite short, so would recommend it for sure. Out of the other ones, let me know if anything else is worth it. I did recently add to my waiting list at the library Fingersmith, because a lot of you were telling me to do that, but I don't even remember what it is about. I'll figure it out whenever I get to it. I think it's a mystery, but I guess it's gothic vibes too. I'll let you know once I'm done with it. Next, we have Autumnal Academia, which I did a whole video reading all of the Dark Academia vibes. I've said that word too many times now, it's coming out. Books that I have read. So I've reviewed some of these, and I have some other ones that I really enjoyed. So I will link that down below if you are interested. But quickly, let's go through that list because I have once again read quite a few of them, and there are a few that are on my TBR. The first one that I see is The Secret History, which I feel like that is the #1 book that you see everywhere as soon as you mention academia vibes. You follow the main character who goes to university to learn about dead languages, really, and it's a bunch of awful people. So if you enjoy only stories that follow good, likable characters, academia is probably just in general not going to work for you. They're definitely insufferable. They're meant to be. And they end up in this sticky situation. There's a murder mystery going on. And I overall did enjoy it, but it's not my favorite on this list. One of my favorite has to be the next one, which is If We Were Villains. This one is also insufferable characters studying in university, but this time it's Shakespeare plays. So I would recommend the audiobook if you enjoy those because you get sections of, the actors playing those roles too. There's also a murder mystery, some awful people, and it was just really enjoyable. I liked it. Definitely all the vibes. We're going to keep going and keep saying that word because it works. It's true. So definitely a must to read during the fall. Next, we have Bunny, and oh my gosh, Bunny. Bunny divides people. It is overall pretty lowly rated on Goodreads. You can, debate if those ratings are worth much, but this is one of the weirdest books I've read. And you have good weird. You have good weird, and then you have Bunny. You follow the main character who is in graduate school, and you don't know at first if she's the one that is being snubby or not, but she's judging the other women in that class. They're all like weirdly friendly. They all call each other Bunny. So you don't know if it's like, is it internalized misogyny? Or are they actually weird? And things progressively get worse and worse. And I was on board until the last, I don't know, third, where it just went too far and lost me, but it's worth trying. if you like weird books. Only if you like weird books. So it's definitely an experience, but I put it down and all I could think was, what the am I reading? Or did I read? Because this was too much for me. Next, we have a new classic for Dark Academia recommendation, and it is Babel by Arif Kwan. This is now a must-read for people that enjoy characters that are studying. I really enjoy that first half specifically because the main character lives in a world that links magic. The magic system is linked to people being particularly good in different languages. Basically, the rule is like if you can dream in that language, then you're bilingual enough to use the magic that is linked to that language. So really, really interesting setting. It is inspired by actual real life events. And I was completely fascinated by, again, the prose and just the story in the beginning. I do wish the characters, like the friendships, had been developed a bit more, and the ending was not my favorite, but overall it's a fantastic book that is absolutely a must read. Again, if you enjoy fantasy, I feel like none of these are really, so far, have been fantasy. They're coming now. And if you enjoy Dark Academia, you have to try that one. It's a must read for sure. Next, we have Ninth House, which is a murder mystery on a university campus. And it includes like fraternities, like weird rituals. You're following a character who goes there to investigate the situation. There is a magical, I think, library, but like none of that is really used that well, in my opinion. The main female character is not likable. The reason I finished was because of the side character. What was his name? Because he was by far the best portion of the book. Which I think book 2 follows him. Let me know if that's true or not. Darlington, I think? Yes, Darlington. But yeah, Alex I didn't really care for. I felt like whenever you get, the murder mystery solved, you get still a long portion of the book that felt kind of pointless. And mostly there was a scene in there that I think was quite problematic. I wasn't expecting it, and I just felt like it was kind of pointless in there. So I was a little disappointed. I have yet to continue the series. I do want to because I was really hoping to like it because, again, university setting is enjoyable when you mix it with a little bit of like magic would be a stretch, but like kinda. And I wanted to really love it. So if you've continued the series, let me know how you feel. It seems to be, again, kind of an unpopular opinion, but I overall just didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I do have an Academy for Liars on my Kindle right now. I will be reading it hopefully really soon. I'm looking forward to trying that one. And The Likeness, so many of you told me to give it a shot, but I hated book 1. I had to put it down. I know you can technically just pick up book 2, so I might try it, but that's kind of it for this category for me. For the Uncanny and Strange category, I have only read 2. So definitely let me know if you've read some of the other ones and they are worth checking out. But the first one is Our Wives Under the Sea. This is another book that if you enjoy just vibes and lyrical writing, this will be your jam. Personally, I'm realizing not really. It is more of a horror book though, compared to the other ones I've been talking about. But you have a main character who is sent under the water in this submarine, and they end up being stuck there for way too long, way longer than planned, and things are weird and just vibes. Honestly, there's not much of a story. It's not even character driven that much. It's vibes. That's it. It's just the prose. So needless to say, it didn't really work for me, but in general, it's one of those books that either you love it or you're just really indifferent and confused as to why it's so popular. So the other one I read is Inhalation, which this is 100% sci-fi, which I don't know why sci-fi and fall don't really, I mean, I guess there's no wrong things to put on this list. I guess it's horror too, okay? I take it back. I feel like I'm being really harsh about the whole sci-fi and fall, but this is a strange one also. And the main character, you don't know her name. You don't know anyone's name in this series. I've only read the first one, but she is a biologist, so you just know her as the biologist. People have been disappearing in this weird zones, which like aliens, maybe? And she's sent there with a team of other women, and they have to try and figure out what's going on. There are definitely some really creepy moments, like specifically for me, when she's going down a tower, things are so weird and uncomfortable. Like, that's good though. Like, when a horror book makes you feel uncomfortable, that works. And just things are strange, but I have no clue what I read. None. So if you like weird books, and I guess horror, then you could check that one out for fall. I'm being needlessly picky about this topic, but the next category is Cozy Capers, which, what does caper mean? I know English is not my first language, but I don't know what that means. Playful? Ridiculous? Is that what that means? Let me know. I'm gonna go with playful because all these covers, okay, a few years ago, you would have shown me any of those covers, I would have told you, there's no way I'm reading this. What is this? But I read In the Company of Witches, which, you know what, sneaking in that recommendation. And that cover was a big no-no for me, but I ended up really enjoying this. So if you're someone that, again, fall recommendation, Witches, small town. It's kind of a mix of Gilmore Girls and like Sabrina the Teenage Witch kind of vibes. It's a murder mystery, small town. It was good. It was really good. So I would recommend that one because I have not read any of the ones on this list. So that would be my recommendation. I do have book one before the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore on my list. It's the Pumpkin Cafe one, which I think are more like Hallmark kind of books, romance kind of books. And I've heard that book two is better. So I don't know if you have to read book one. Definitely let us know if you know in the comment section. And if there are any on this list that are actually good, I am now fully willing to give those a shot, even though, again, a few years ago, these covers would have been a big no-no, and now I'm like fully interested in giving more of them a shot. I think they might be more hit and miss. That's kind of how it works, right? When you're trying things that are outside of your comfort zone, they can be a bit more hit and miss, but I do think it's worth it because you can discover things that you would have never read otherwise that work for you. So I'm interested. I'm intrigued. The last category is Ghost Galore, which once again, I haven't finished any books on this list. There is The Shining, which I feel like is a classic, but unfortunately I had to put that one down because Stephen King is really hit and miss for me because I tend to find him a little too intense sometimes. And in this case, main character is an alcoholic, and with his family, he lost his job. So he finds this job in this remote like hotel, and he's slowly losing it. And you don't know if he's being like, if they're ghost hunting him or if it's just the alcoholism, but he starts thinking really harshly about his wife in his head. And I found it so gratuitously violent, I had to put it down. I don't find books triggering very often, but this one was too far for me. I tried the audiobook, I tried the ebook. I had to put it down basically at the same spot both times. So not for me, but I do have a couple of the other ones on my list, so I might give them a shot. Definitely tell us in the comment section if you have tried some of them, because I would love to hear your own thoughts, your own reviews, but I haven't read that many books about ghosts, so I'm definitely interested in hearing your favorites. So out of the 63, I have read or attempted to read 27. So not bad. I mean, it's almost half of them. And I would say more of them worked for me than didn't, which is better than my average for Goodreads list. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you also enjoyed the random favorites I included in here, because why not? I feel like fall books are especially fun to recommend. They're definitely like more of a theme than like summer reads. I feel like it's more vague. It could be a little bit of anything. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let us know in the comment section if you have read any of these, your reviews, your recommendations. I want to know. Thumbs up, subscribe. I'll put more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Oh, and if there are any other lists you want me to do a video like this on, let me know. Bye.